Well, good morning. I hope you guys are very talkative because we really plan on having more of a discussion. And
Chris, that's you.
Hi, Chris. I've never met you face to face, but we talk on the phone a lot. I'm Laurie.
Hi, Laurie. Yeah, let's get some quick names.
Let's
Can we get quick names at school since it's such a small group in your name and what school you teach at? Or school?
Let's start right here.
Clinton, Fulmer, Green Canyon.
Green Canyon.
Mark, Comstock, Canyon View.
Canyon View.
Chris Sitaway Skyview.
She's retiring.
Here in town.
Canyon View is here in town.
Yeah,
I haven't
here in
met you
town.
yet. I've done.
No, you guys come to our
Yeah,
school
we know
often,
Jason
but
Yeah.
and
Jason and Kim and
they
Justin.
do most of the classwork, so I
You do
have
most of the driving.
most of the.
Okay, all right. That's why I haven't met you.
Down close.
Dallas close.
Beaver.
Beaver.
Weber.
Beaver.
Jason Duckworth, Northridge.
Northridge, nice to meet all of you face to face finally. I mean, it's been 2 years now doing this whole virtual thing, so I haven't got to meet you. I am Laurie Huntsman. I work for the Utah Department of Transportation, but I am over Zero Fatalities outreach for the entire state. I live in Richfield. Yay, I didn't have to move to Salt Lake for this job, which was the original plan, but then COVID hit, so I'll change. And I love being able to stay in Richfield and still be able to do this job.
You was there yesterday.
You were in Richfield yesterday?
My in-laws are from Richfield.
Oh, I probably know.
Yeah, Laurie, we were know.
Well, they're Larsons, but with an O in. Margie and Dennis Larson.
Oh my gosh, yes. They're my parents and Dennis's parents were best friends. They did everything together, lived across the street, grew up with them.
Yeah, you already get a gold star.
There you go,
You
they're
do.
going on a mission, so they had their farewell yesterday. So.
Oh, I hadn't heard because they're in a whole other state now, but awesome. And this is Natalie Level. Do you want to tell them?
Thank you all. I think I know most of you. You all know me, the loud one of the group.
Natalie's with Penna Powers. They are the awesome marketing group that helps make all of this real, makes it all fun, does all of the hard work behind the scenes. So what we really want to talk about today is our presentation, just a little bit about it. I think most of you are familiar with what it is. You've seen it.
Most of you use it. I have to say, most of you have like our parent night and some of you have Drug Smart, but we've got just some updates we want you to be aware of, some things.
Yeah. So we're going to go over a few of those things, and then we just want to get your opinion. We've found that since COVID, we have a lot of schools that were really active with us before COVID and have not joined us again since. So we really want some input about what we can do to make things easier for you, to make sure it's happening all over the state. And I mean, we were at what, 80% of the schools before COVID, and we're just below 50% now.
And so, and that's what we're here for. Like, we want a discussion.
We want to
hear your ideas.
So I think
We
the
want to
main
hear
problem
what's
is
working, what's not
Not the
working.
problem, but these webinars, I think they're very convenient. But I think a lot of schools now just say, oh, we'll just make them do it online.
And we've tried to make that a little less easy for them by limiting available, because now that we've gone to the meeting, and we'll get into that a little bit later, we have to limit the number because we cannot monitor over 150 students at a time.
Yeah, how do you do that? Like,
Well,
is there a way, or do kids just log on, turn their phone down? And
They
mess
have to go
around?
into
Yeah. Good gracious.
Wow.
We're gonna get way into
Okay.
that in a little bit, but yeah. So, but that's good feedback.
cool, that's it.
And we know that's a problem, but then we have all these schools that are online only. And that's really our purpose for keeping the virtual meeting, is to accommodate those online only schools. We want all the rest to be able to come back live with us.
And we'll talk about some of those
Yeah,
things.
we will. We'll get
Those
to
of
that.
you online, do you want to tell them if they have any questions? Just shoot
Yeah,
text.
those of you online,
We'll talk. We're
there's,
sure.
here's Natalie's phone number if you want to shoot any texts or comments to her.
Feel free to talk.
Questions or comments, or you're free to open up your mic and just chat with us. We'll see how that goes. But we're going to try that because we really want to get everybody's opinion on all of these things. So just a little bit about myself. I've been with UDOT for 8, 9, almost 10 years now. And before I started working in Zero, I was in traffic and safety. And the biggest part of my job was to make charts and graphs and collect data from the fatal crashes and put it together for the engineers so that they had things to study about, you know, what caused them and what they could do to make them better. And as you can imagine, that was really depressing. And I've been working for about 3 months, and I opened up a DI-9 to start reading the details about a crash. and realized that the victim of this fatal crash had been my neighbor when I was growing up. And we lived in Emery County at the time, and I had just been visiting with him the week prior when I'd gone over for my aunt's funeral, and I broke down and just started bawling at my desk. And I'm like, I can't keep doing this. This is not worth the good benefits I get from the state or whatever. It's just not worth it. So I went and talked to my boss, and we decided that it might be a good idea for me to get involved with Zero so that I had some positive stuff going on besides all of this negative. And so I got involved with Zero back then, just kind of helping them set up with the schools in central and southern Utah. They were real active off the Wasatch Front at that point and tried to get them into more schools. So I visited with school boards, and I visited with principals and teachers, and just kind of started working on a more positive angle. So when the job for the full-time person came up, I jumped on it, and I'm so lucky to get it because this is so much fun.
And we love her. We love Laurie.
To be on the preventative side, it's the cleanup side. It's so much nicer. So I have a lot of knowledge about fatal crashes and what goes on in those, and it's really depressing. And on a more personal level, in fact, I had somebody tell me once they didn't want to be my friend. I have had 23 friends and family members killed in car crashes. We don't call them accidents. So I've lost 23 neighbors, family, friends, killed in car crashes over my lifetime. And yeah, I'm getting up there in age, but it's still more than 3 a year on average. So it's just really impacted me personally. And so I really have a passion for zero fatalities. We're going to start with the parent night presentation. We're just going to review a little bit about what it's about because from what I've heard from Audra, we have a lot of new instructors this
And
year.
you guys are all pretty familiar, but we have some new online, so there's just a few
So-
pieces we're gonna review. We're not gonna take too much time.
I'm not going to take a lot of time. And we have those of you who haven't had it since COVID or just coming back, did change things up. Last August, September, we started piloting this new program. We've gone positive. It used to be don't, and we've changed it to do. So we've kind of made that change. So our parent night presentations last an hour, and we come to your school. All you have to do is invite the parents and arrange for a room to make it happen in. So we try to make it as easy as possible for you. And of course, the reason we do it is because motor vehicle crashes are a leading cause of death and serious injury for teens across the nation. And of those 23 people that I personally know, 13 of them didn't make it out of their teenage years. So when you consider just over half of them didn't make it to 20, and then the other half, that's a big concentration in that age group. And we really need to be working to change that. And I know that's what you guys do in your jobs every day. So teen crashes are a leading cause of death in Utah. 9% of our drivers are teens, yet they are involved in 21% of the crashes. And we all know that's because of inexperience. And a couple of years ago when I first started, we did a survey with all of you and asked you what kinds of things you wanted us to do in our parent nights. And the number one thing we heard from you is to get the parents more involved. To do whatever we could to make the parents realize their responsibility of getting that drive time with their students. And so we've really focused on that with our new presentation. This is a new video we've just put in the last few months. It was in January that we finished this video. And I don't know how many of you have seen it already, but we're just going to show you this video and show you the impact that parents have on
Well,
the
one of
teen
you guys
drivers.
has it, didn't you have this, the Fatalaties?
Yeah, it was when we
Utah?
were still in school, wasn't it, or right when we split?
Right when we split.
It was right when we split, and I think you guys did a thing on it, so I called him, the kid was coming, and the mom said he hasn't even seen pictures himself. And so I asked her not to, it was like 4 or 5 years ago, not to show that, because he had shown something the 2 months before in our night class, and the cousins were in class.
So
So it's,
it's hard, it's hard.
anyway, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a hard situation to have to know you're responsible for something like that. That us as parents made that choice for Kason that day that changed not only his life, but the life of another family drastically. You know, 2 little girls lost their mom.
Previously, we had not allowed him to drive without an adult. That day, it was a homecoming dance, and his group had kind of fallen apart. So we talked back and forth, and we decided to let him drive. All his friends were doing it.
99% of the time, your child's gonna arrive home safely. But I've been the 1%, we've been the 1% where that doesn't happen, and it's just not worth it. It's not worth it.
Never let your kid drive until they're 100% ready, until they have their license. We could have lost everything, and it's not worth the chance.
So just a reminder that it's up to the parents to enforce those GDL laws. And we really need to make sure the parents know that. And the earlier on in the licensing process, they get this information, the better. And so we're trying really hard to make sure they get this information early. And so one thing we really want to do is try to get the parent nights as early on as we can get them. I know a lot of them online, or I'm getting emails saying, I'm supposed to get my license tomorrow. Can you please let my teacher know I took this class tonight? And, you know, this information needs to be way early on. I mean, if we could get it just before they turn 15 would be.
Before they even get their permit.
Before they even get their permit would be optimal. But since that's a little harder to do, and we're going to talk a little bit about what we might do to make that happen. But as early on in your classes as possible is really the best. So one thing we learned from that survey that we did a few years ago is that about 80% of the students in Utah were not getting their 40 hours of driving experience.
What's the average that they do get? What, do you know?
You know, I don't think that wasn't the question of what, yeah, when we surveyed a bunch of parents and they admitted, yeah, we just signed it off, we didn't.
I mean, there's nothing they have to prove.
I said, that's the
It's
thing
not like they
is,
submit
There's
anything.
not a law.
proof.
or anything,
Yeah.
right?
It's an honor system.
Yeah.
It is an honor system, and we found out a lot of people aren't very honorable in Utah, apparently. And I don't know, we've talked about ways that we can maybe make that more impactful. I know my sister who lives in Virginia, they had to go in front of a judge and sign an affidavit saying that they did the 40 hours in order to get their license. And I think that hits a little closer to home, but I don't know that our court system really wants to
It
take
would
that
bog
on.
down the court system a little.
Yeah.
bit, but, yeah.
So I don't know what the answer is, but we're trying to figure out ways to help those parents so that
And
they.
we've got a tool we're gonna show you in a
Yeah.
second too, that's good to start using.
Question before you go on to the next thing. So have you ever gotten with DLD and required that the parents and students do something with 0 fatalities and go through the program before they can get it? I know that the DLD would have to require that before they gave them their learner's permit. We talked about having something like this before they got their permit. And I know we want to keep adding stuff on, and they probably are like, we don't want to add too many things on before they get this, but I just wonder if that's a conversation that could ever happen.
Natalie and I are actually part of a task force called Team Driver Task Force, and the DLD is involved in that.
Yeah,
And we have talked to them, and they're very reluctant to add any more to their plate.
I understand.
But we're pushing. We're
It's a
doing-
way to get the parents involved much earlier, other than just studying for the test and passing the written test and saying, okay, now you can start driving,
Yeah.
you know? I don't know.
Yeah, and I think as teachers, you guys can see the kids that haven't got that experience when you start driving with them. You're like,
Oh,
holy
from the moment
cow.
it takes,
Yeah.
3 minutes.
takes 3 minutes.
3 minutes to
Yeah.
go.
No.
And so as teachers, are you saying?
Are you so
okay?
frustrated by that? I would be like,
Well,
come on.
you say you go and get some hours and then we'll.
You get the same thing every time.
Yeah,
Oh, my
we'll
goodness,
drive.
Timothy.
Go drive with mom and dad for 20 hours and then call me back and I'll help you out.
That's what I do. I just
Good,
stop.
good.
I say, I won't drive with you until you, like, you got 2 months to practice before you drive. You know, they usually come back much
And this-
better.
I was just gonna say that 2 things, the excuses that we have are, I don't wanna come, my parents don't wanna come to parent night because they came a couple years ago and they came a couple years ago before that for all my older brothers and sisters. And I would think it would be so great if you guys could make something, like a short little commercial or something that addresses that every kid's different. Every situation's
It's not the
different.
point of just the parent hearing it, right? It's the point that you're having a discussion with this team,
Yes,
right?
exactly.
Which is completely different than the other.
Yeah,
Yes, it's in different situations and waking those parents up that each child deserves your attention as they learn to drive. They need it. And things change. There's new research. You guys are on the cutting edge of everything. And the other one is just that. My parents are too busy to drive me and they don't have time. You don't have time to help your child keep alive. I just think it would be awesome because you guys do such a good job at the twist stuff and just grabbing those parents and going, oh,
Yeah.
that was stupid.
You know
And I
I like
even thought of
that.
that excuse, as a parent.
Yeah. Well, see, and one thing that's really interesting is, one of the comments we get most often from parents after a parent night is everybody should be required to do this every 2 or 3 years. We
Right.
all need to be reminded regularly.
Yeah.
So even if it's not because of the connection with the team, which is the main purpose of our parent night, every one of us need to be reminded. I mean, you have to hear things over and over again before it really, really sinks in, right?
There might be a lot less drivers on the road if parents had to take a test every 10 years.
Yeah,
I mean,
I kind of see
definitely.
some of the videos we have to show and watch and you're reminded, oh, it's
Right.
just truly.
Yeah. So we do have some helps for this, and we'll show you what those are so that we can get those going. This is really slow. So, of course, the highest chance of them getting in a crash is that first year they have their license. And so, again, another good reason for the parents to give them more of those experiences while they're there to help them. And we all know that parents are the key. We need them to be involved. We need them to know the GDL laws. That is so important, they know the GDL laws. And we need them to set the example. One thing I always ask when I do a parent night is, how many of you parents want your kid to drive just like you? You know how many hands I usually get? 3, maybe, 2, 3. And most of the time, the kid looks at the parent and just laughs. And, they really get that they're not the best examples. And so it's just a good reminder that they need to be. So these are the CHOP videos. These are what we have come up with to help the parents who say they don't know how to teach, or they're too scared to get in with their kid. So these videos you can get, they're on our website. You can go to the video, they're 3 or 4 minutes long. You sit down with your teen, you watch the video. It gives you goals, it gives you activities to help teach that behavior. And it talks about the common errors that go along with that behavior so that you can talk about those before the kid ever tries to drive that behavior. And then you can sign it off when you feel like your teen is actually past all of the goals and feel as comfortable and safe in that driving environment. Starts them out in a parking lot, driving in and out of boxes, stopping and starting, and then it moves into a residential street and on up to the higher speed streets. But these are fabulous research-based videos. If you haven't watched them,
just simple.
they're simple. If you haven't watched them, you ought to watch them. They're
about how long are they?
Just
3 or
a couple
4 minutes.
minutes.
Yeah, they're really short little videos. Just
Basic skills, for
Basics.
parking lots, the intersections, the things. I mean, I've even had a couple drivers that teachers say, I'm teaching my team how to drive right now. These are helpful for me teaching my kid. So they're just very simple.
So it's just, this was our way of addressing that. I don't know how to teach. I know how to drive, but how to teach is a different story. So they can find those, like I said, on our website under Learning to Drive. Under-
And Children's Hospital of Philadelphia is CHOP, right? I think most of you are familiar with that, but they're the leaders in the nation with this, and they've already created all of this. It's just on our website now. We're partnering with them.
Okay, and you don't even have to go to the website to find them. We have this text messaging system that if you type in "ready to drive" at this phone number, then every
Thanks every other
every
week, right?
other week, every bi-week, then they get a text message that gives them those CHOP videos and says, okay, let's work on this for 2 weeks. And then it gives them the next one and let's work on this.
You guys created a flyer for that.
Yes.
We handed out in each class that ready to drive thing. Yeah, and it's, well, and there's another one too, that's a 1-page paper.
One page.
Yeah.
Okay,
Not
but
sure
it is
how
on
that
this.
goes, but
And did they get this? Did the DLD give them this?
So that's something we're working to
Yes.
get out sooner. They should get it at the DLD, and also we're working to get them into like freshman orientations.
Yeah.
And we actually have that to discuss in a second too, if anybody has ideas for that, but yeah, we're trying to get this stuff sooner.
Okay, so at our parent nights, once we cover the GDL laws, then of course we get into the 5 behaviors. And like I said earlier, we've changed them from the don'ts to the do's. Same tips, just more positive way of saying it. So then we cover each of those skills one by one. And this is a new video we've added since our new presentation, even after we started the new presentation. So I don't know if all of you have seen this, but this is a fabulous one on distracted driving.
Play that moment in my head multiple times a day. There wasn't anything I could do. I was out of control. From the time that I looked down at my phone to the time that I looked up, 8 seconds had passed. I never realized how far you travel in 8 seconds.
We'll never get to see our dad again. And it's all because of the 8 seconds that Sam decided to look at his phone.
I thought it would be fine. I thought nothing will happen. During those 8 seconds, the time went by so fast. I traveled a lot farther than I ever thought I would have. I looked up just before I hit the vehicle, and my truck went right on top of his car that he had and pushed him all the way through the intersection. And I got out of the truck as fast as I could, and I ran back to the car. And it sank in fully that it was too late. This can happen to anybody. All it takes is one poor decision.
Every time I hop in my car, I see people driving distracted. And I mean, I just want to stop the person and shake them and tell them, do you have any idea what you're doing right now did to my family? Do you have any idea what that did to my family and what you could do to someone else's?
Like to Chris's point, we're not trying to just show the exact same thing. So I mean, if you guys even know of stories or connections, feel free to pass them along. It may be something we want to add to the presentation or a story we could use for media. So we're always trying to keep those things fresh.
Yeah, and that one, I don't know, when I think about you actually are watching the actual crash, it really gets to me. But we try really hard in our presentation not to just do all the negative, all of the scary. We try to make a nice balance because we want them to feel empowered when they leave. We don't want them to feel scared. So we try to keep a balance there because you want them to understand the gravity of becoming a driver, what that means, but you don't want them to be scared to get out on the road. So if you watch our presentation and you feel like we're getting too heavy one way or the other, let us know. So you've all got the little workbook in front of you. So every time we finish a section, one of the 5 behaviors, we ask the parents and team to take notes and to write down their feelings. And it's really fun when we're doing these classes to watch them write quickly and have these little discussions while they're writing down these tips. We have tips for each one. We give them the tips. They can write those down, and then they can also write down what impacted them while we were doing that section. So that's right in the very center of the booklet where the notes section is. And the reason we have this happen is because another thing you guys let us know is that you wanted the parent night to begin a conversation with the teen and the student. You wanted it to not just, okay, we came and it's over. We wanted to be able to have them really connect and talk and discuss. And so every time we have them write down these tips, we say something like, now when you go home and have this discussion tonight, you can use these notes to help spur that conversation on. And so that's why we added this part of it, is to help get that conversation to continue once they leave. And I have several people, I've had people text me or email me and say, hey, can we get this for our whole family to watch together? We'd like to have this conversation with all of our kids, even the ones that have already started driving. So this is something the parents, at least a lot of the parents, seem to like. And we reemphasize the GDL law that goes with each behavior. So that's kind of what our parent night does. These are some of the comments that we've gotten from parents this year as we've done the new presentation.
And just on their own, they would comment, they would say
Yeah,
something on the
these
website.
were unsolicited comments that I've gotten. And most of them, you know, talk about, hey, this made me think about things I hadn't thought about before. This, you know, gives me something to talk about with my team that I hadn't thought about talking with them before. So we feel like this new program is really working for what we're hoping it would work for. So this is how you find out where the parent nights are live and how to sign up for the virtual parent night. So you go to our Zero Fatalities page, you click on the Parent Night Truck Smart button there, and then, I need to click it again.
No, it's fine.
Okay. So it's going to take you to the parent involvement page, and if you scroll up, it is being glitchy and weird. As it scrolls up, it gives you the live presentations first, because we want them to go live first, if they can. And then we do the virtual parent night. And they have to,
That's been kind of glitchy, guys, I don't know why.
it also gives them the workbook to download
They're doing the
if they're
work.
doing it at home. Okay, and then, so it's that easy to sign up for the online one or
Or to find other
find
schools.
another school, which of course is our first choice. Unfortunately, we have schools that aren't doing it at all at their school, but they're encouraging their students to go to other schools. So please, 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 let's get everybody live. Let's get everybody doing it at their schools. That way, everybody has more options of where they can go if the night at their own school doesn't work.
I've been at a handful of parent nights where students will come up after to take a picture, something to get credit, right? And I'll ask, oh, what's for you? And they'll say school, and I'm like, we're not even doing a parent night at your school. And then, you know, I'll have that discussion with them, and they're like, oh, well, it's still an assignment, my teacher's making me go and find a school. And for us, that's kind of just intriguing, right? 'Cause it's like, well, why is it you know, we're happy that you're coming to find one, but like, why isn't your teacher also offering one for you, right? So.
Okay, so I don't know if you all know, we also have a Spanish presentation. So if we come to your school and you have a lot of students that could use this, mostly parents that could use this, let us know and we'll bring our Spanish Martin along with us. He's great.
And they just go at the same time.
They just go
So
at
if
the same
you have a lot
time.
of Spanish students, just get 2 rooms, one for the English, one for the Spanish. We have Spanish workbooks we have. So just know that that's an option that's available.
Okay. Also, a lot of schools combine, like they'll hold their parent night for the 2 schools that are close to each other at this school. And then the next time they have it, they'll get the other school and they just kind of share. And that way you only have to schedule half as many. If that makes it easier on you, we're happy to do it that way. We're happy to combine schools. We've even talked about maybe reserving a big auditorium and like in the Salt Lake Valley or in Utah County where there's a lot of schools, Weaver, and inviting all the schools from that area to come.
Would this be something that you would feel like would be used or beneficial for you, or is it easier for you to just do your own at your own school? Like, what are thoughts on that? If we had kind of bigger venues and like your students could just show up at that.
I think it's easier to do it at my own high school.
Okay.
Cause I can get a lot more, but there are the ones that don't make it where, like, the Davis Conference Center, where we had, where, you know, Northridge,
Right.
Clearfield, City Hall, could go. I mean, it'd be another great option, but I don't understand why schools aren't, it's not that hard.
I agree. I don't
Just do
understand
your
what
own.
everyone's not doing about Truck Smart and Zero Fatalities.
Well, Truck Smart might
That work?
We're changing that this year, right? Yeah.
You know what? I'm an organized person, I guess. We have, each day is a certain thing that we do. We teach night class. And it's always the same night. Thursday night's the first week, Truck Smart, and Tuesday night, the second week is parent night. It's always the same time. So I schedule out for a year and a half.
Yeah. It's
So we're
awesome.
scheduled.
And
It's
we love
awesome.
that, by the way.
Yes, we do.
So you just don't, you don't have to think about it every time. It takes a half an hour to figure it all out at first, but then it's
And then you
done.
send them to me early, and you almost always get the night you want.
You don't- yeah.
And I try really hard to respond to you within 24 hours.
You've been great at responding back.
So,
And I don't even have to think about it until you guys send me an email a couple days before, hey, we're planning to see you then. you
yeah.
know? Anyway, just a thought for.
And we thought maybe the venue thing might work well for summer classes, maybe several from the, but,
What if you did like one a semester, one a quarter?
and we, if that would be helpful, we'd be happy to look into that.
The problem is we go like every other month, but just because our auditorium or our library, is the only place we can hold it, and they get booked out, like also here. So we don't have space for August, and so we have to like then try to combine for September.
Okay,
So that's
Good to know.
that's the issue that we have, is
being able to schedule.
being able to share with.
We do a lot of them in
Oh,
cafeterias.
hey, one time we're at 5, the next time we're at 8:30, just because we're just trying to figure it out.
One place that a lot of people use is cafeterias. We've done a
Could
lot
you
in the
even combine
cafeterias.
schools? Would that be an
Well, that-
option?
Well, that's what I'm saying, if you just have one big venue, then it's like, all right, well, you know, we've got 3 here out of the next 5 months, and then with one big one at the Davis Conference Center. Or, but at the same time too, it's not that big.
Yeah.
Because our kids will drive over to Fremont or Ogden Pike just as easy. just to go catch
Right.
Okay.
I mean, the only thing about going to a big venue, it might be cost prohibitive.
Especially if it's probably just gonna be used as like a backup option, that doesn't sound like it's probably, and that's
Yeah.
okay, this is the feedback we're gonna hear.
Right. If we're gonna put the money into renting a place like that, we want it packed.
Sure.
If that makes sense, because our budget is very limited. So, but yeah, let's think about the possibility of that. We'll get everybody's ideas as the day goes on and see how many people are interested in that. So the next thing we want to talk about is how do we get them to see it sooner in the process rather than later in the process?
Does anybody have any ideas even for your district or your school, whether it's getting these flyers sooner, whether it's getting the parent night sooner? You wanna talk about Sevier District?
So Sevier School District, they have made it mandatory. Well, now it's mandatory for all of you, but they made it mandatory that they can't even start the driver's ed class until they've been to a parent night. So they hold 3 of them throughout the year. And when they sign up for driver's ed, they have to prove that they've already been to a parent night.
Do you think? for in
It
your
would work for
district-
our district, because our district still teaches during the class day. So that'd be hard to like,
Yeah.
oh, sorry, you didn't take it, we're gonna have to change the whole schedule, get you out, you have to take an extra. So we could
That's
do
true.
it now.
It
Or you
works
do it
for-
at night or something, yeah.
Yeah, that works for the smaller schools where they have to come early in the morning. or-
But we do have like a freshman orientation that happens usually, we just had it like in February where all the incoming ninth graders come and they do a little thing and then they go around to different things. And I have a driver's ed table I have, the parents come and ask questions, but I've never had, it'd be nice to have something like.
We can use one of those
Yeah, like,
spots.
hey, here, take one of these, this is start doing this now.
That's not all
Very
they
good.
need yet.
So I mean, something like this to have, like you said,
Well-
even a flyer or something. that can-
One thing Gunnison High School does is we go before the freshman orientation and do the parent night. An hour before freshman orientation
Like the night
starts.
of
The night of, right. So we come and do and then they do their freshman orientation after we do our little thing. And then he does another one partway through the year for anybody that might have missed that. That's one way that we're getting to those students earlier. So
We
just
have 600 sophomores.
Yeah.
So I don't-
Yeah.
we don't know that-
And that's why we were just curious if there were ideas that you feel like could work in your school or district
I like
or.
requiring it before you even take the class, just because the week is after school there, so we could easily make that happen, but I don't know if it would cut our numbers in half.
Do you have any ideas of how you could get the word out? I mean, would it just be what we're doing now, trying to get? in
Well,
freshman
everybody
orientation?
comes and gets a packet from us to sign up, and it has all of our expectations of what, you gotta commit, you gotta do this, you gotta. And so kids all have to complete that, we can just add that to our packet.
Yeah.
Hey, you have to attend parent night, and here are the dates for the next 6 months. But I don't know if that would mean more kids will just jump on virtually, because they can just get it out of the way as quick as possible, or.
One thing we do is we don't even let them know there's a virtual option unless they come to us saying, I cannot make it to any of these. What do I do? And then you say, Well, okay.
Yeah, if you don't tell them, they don't know.
Is it on the website though? Is it on the?
It is.
It is, but it's hidden. You
That's-
have to scroll down a ways to find it.
So when I send the kids to, because they can't come to the Weavers, they'll be like, well, tell me where there's one. So I'll take them to the website and show them where there's one, and then they usually see, they keep going, they're like, oh, this says there's a virtual one, can I do that? And I
A lot,
just-
another thing we tell too is a lot of schools, we're like, that's just for the online schools,
That's
you
for the
know,
online
it's
Maybe that's what
reserved
I
for
need to
them.
do, that's just for online only kids.
Because there are quite a few schools that are just online and like that is their only option, so and that's really the only reason we're keeping the
We have that
online
Davis
option
Connect.
around. If it weren't for those classes, where COVID's kind of fading out, if you will, we would totally cut it. Yeah,
I love the idea of requiring it, but I honestly think sometimes it takes the impact away from it. Because at least they're in a controlled situation where I or the other teacher are walking around, you guys be respectful, you know, you really have to listen to this instead of just, oh, here's
I gotta
another
go get
thing, I
this
got a
done.
freshman orientation, or here's another thing, and I'm not really paying attention. I mean, I said to the kids, you are not on your phone when they come, and you guys tell your parents not to be on their phones either. That's embarrassing, it's rude, these guys are professionals. So, because that's what you know, that's what they do.
I can see that,
So,
the impact, it just not being
just-
as, not feeling as relevant maybe.
yes, because but I get that we want them to do it, but I just
That's a good point.
think that you just,
It's a different impact
That's a
when you
good
have
point.
as a captive audience in the class.
Yeah, a part of
'Cause
driving.
then we
ed
can follow up
versus-
the very next
That's a
night
good
and say,
point.
hey, these guys came last night, let's review a couple of these things. And you're not gonna get that same thing if you
If
just
they're
say,
doing it way before.
do it some
That's
general
good,
time
yeah,
before you take driver's ed.
Yeah,
That's
no, I
fine.
like
That's
that.
really good.
and I
feedback.
think even showing that we're supportive of it, you know, as teachers, that it's
You
not
put
just
it
some
right.
outside program. It's something.
So you guys teach your classes after school too?
We do them in the evening.
Oh, so yeah, see, I do it during school days, so
Yeah.
I couldn't do it.
Yeah. It's a little tougher. And so they're a pretty captive audience.
Let me
It's
just
kind of
figure
nice.
like just once a month.
Yeah, no, I just do it once a term.
So is it the beginning of the term?
I try to do it like about halfway through the course.
Maybe we just do it day
Yeah.
one of your course.
Okay, we're gonna skip to the virtual one. We've changed it so that we actually see their faces now. Because comments we were getting made it very obvious they were
They
not
can't
paying
see each
attention.
other, but we have somebody moderating, who's actually like, I've moderated, it's like, get your parent on screen or we're gonna remove you. And so and they have to have their screen on.
And they will not get their certificate.
Yeah,
until-
it's a parent night.
They're like,
You're,
I did
if
it,
you're,
I got
you're not
kicked
there
off.
together, we're
Yeah.
removing you from the meeting.
You will get kicked off. We always send them a message saying, you got 3 minutes to find a parent to sit next to you or you're out of here. Okay,
That's good.
they only get a certificate if they're on for 50 minutes or longer. We are capping it because the moderator has to be able to watch all these screens. And I do send a list also so that you can double check. One thing that we're seeing, and we'll get to that in a minute, I guess. And then we have had some where they are both on the screen, but they are obviously not engaged.
When I was doing it last week, I had a parent and teen at a volleyball game, their phone's just kind of sitting there and they're both watching whatever's going on. I had a teen driving last week. I've had parents driving, we've had them, and so I mean, honestly, a good percentage of them are paying attention. But it's like if you can, and obviously if they're driving, we directly message them and say, get it together, find another time or whatever, but it's like volleyball, we're on the beach doing who knows what, we're having this internal discussion with us going, well, at what point do we insert ourselves and say, you're clearly not paying attention, maybe find another night, or, I mean, you know what, I don't know, if
Do
anybody.
you want us to insert ourselves in those
Yes.
places?
Yeah.
Please.
You should.
I mean, it's like, we're really not
You
trying to
should
be
kick them off.
micromanagers where it's like, oh, we can tell, you're really not, but like some of them, they're blatantly,
They've gotta be in front of the screen, engaged, they can't definitely be doing.
and most of them are
talking
honestly, most of them you
about.
can see the parent of the team and they're talking about things, pointing things out, whatever, but.
This isn't drivers ed related, but a year ago, we were doing Zoom meets, because we had to get shut down for COVID. I had a kid in line at Disney World on one of the rides, he's you could see him in line waiting to get on the Matterhorn or something like that while we were having
Oh my
class. That was
Oh, I'd
great.
have kids who are at work. It's-
Yeah, it's-
Sitting there, yeah.
What are you doing, they're on their work instead of,
He
yeah.
got his ears on, in line.
Yeah.
So I mean, we're trying to make sure that they're actually on that, so that's why we changed it to that format. This is kind of the registration page right here. We just really want to point out that it's the parents.
It does say student name, parents' email, because if they put their school email, it blocks it will block us from sending the certificates
And their
at most of
registration
the
link,
schools.
or sometimes, yeah. it's
Yeah,
blocked
and they won't get their registration link because it's blocked, because it's coming from Zoom. But we want the student's name because that's what shows up on the certificate, is whatever name is in there.
So if you do have students using that, just remind them, parents email to make sure you receive it, but your name will go on the certificate.
So for those of you that are online teachers, that will
Can you
know.
change the form that says student first name and then parent email address?
We can't.
Can't change it.
It's a Zoom thing. That's why we just have to do the instructions, because it won't let us change those fields. Okay, I don't remember. This is what the certificate looks like, just so you know. Won't have my name, it'll have the student's
We
name.
have a lot of parent or students who will email us from the webinar and say, hey, can you remind me of the presenter's name my teacher's asking for? Or they'll forward us their confirmation email and say, here's my credit. And we're like, why are you sending it? Oh, I meant to send that to my teacher. So we're hoping that the teachers will start just looking for the
Yes.
certificate or Laurie's list, because the presenter's name or the confirmation email proves nothing.
See, in Davis Connect, it used to be we had to go to the presenter's name, where, what night was everything, but I don't think you were doing certificates.
No, we just started the
Yeah,
certificate.
so on our, like on Davis Connect, we'll change it to
Yeah,
upload your certificate
yeah.
to prove that you went to it. 'Cause that'd be so much easier too, because then I don't really have to check that
Right.
list, like, where's your name
Yeah.
and stuff.
Yeah, especially with Connect, it's not all the same school.
Yeah.
We have to, we make them scan
All right,
QR
like,
code, we
we
have
like
to
a
go in
minute.
and manually.
Huh? Well, let's get to truck start.
Or whatever you wanna talk about.
That's great.
So, you all know that it's now in the code that parent night is required. Okay, it's no longer optional, it's required by the state, so,
So if they don't do a parent night, they can't pass the class?
yes,
You can, yeah,
yes, that started back on October 11th. So I know that the word doesn't
So
always
I
get
know,
out.
like in mine, I would tell my students, if this is the night of our parent night, even if your parents can't come, it's better you come, but I guess if the parents not coming, it's not worth it
It's
coming,
not,
right?
right,
So I should tell them, if your parent can't come, don't bother coming, just try
Right.
to do
and
it.
we have some schools will do that too, where like they get X amount of points if both are.
Like I said, I do, I give
And
you
X amount of points just them, but it's, I mean, they're getting so bad that it's kind of missing the mark if they're not
So
together,
they
right?
basically, okay, parent night.
okay, we're running out of time, it's been such a good discussion. So the pre-driver, we're gonna start doing a pre-driver pilot program where we're gonna go into like the 8th grade health classes and start giving them all this information. Okay, so if you have any way to help us get into 8th grade health classes, if you know a teacher, if you, whatever.
How awesome is that if they're already on top of some of these things, and you're not happy to say, go get more drive time before we drive in a couple months, right?
No, that's good.
Yeah,
That's brand new though, we're just barely
Yeah.
starting that.
we're just piloting it right now. And then we're gonna go back to our peer-to-peer
How
program
many of
in
you
the
remember
high
Don't Drive
schools.
Stupid?
Yes, don't drive stupid.
That's coming
It's
back,
coming back.
so if your school wants to be involved, I mean, usually it's the student government that takes that on, but if you have connection to your school wants to be involved, let us know, we'll be starting that up again this next year.
We've got a drive time tracker that should be coming out in the next couple of weeks where they keep track of their hours on their phone.
And it's not an app, it's on the website.
Okay, so, because one of my students had an app.
There are
That's
some
pretty cool, I
apps.
mean,
There
like,
are apps out
what's
there,
this
this is just on
Each
the
student, like, can I start
website.
my app before we drive? I'm like, sure, we started, but.
Hey, Nat, I'm gonna let you take.
I mean, just real quick, you all know we
2
do
minutes.
Truck Smart, we'd love to come to your school, we have the trucks, we have the VR headsets, we also just updated the new presentation, I'll quickly show the text. So I'm sure you all know our 2 tips, we have 2 new ones, so the great presentation's all been updated. We now have 4 tips, y'all saw the first one, the second one, here's the other one for turning. The third one for leaving space, and then y'all know the rear view mirror one. But we have wall boards for each of those now. Like I said, the presentation is all updated with fun videos.
Last time we
If you wanna see it, you can have us come, there's the online modules, but otherwise, you guys are out of time.